Hey friends, before we get into this episode, just a couple of quick details about this particular conversation. Because of some scheduling demands in our family, Kenna was not able to be on site during recording, so the quality of her audio does not match the beauty of her voice this time around. So apologies in advance, but I promise you the conversation is well worth it regardless. And second of all, just a little look behind the curtains of this whole life. Many times when we record with great guests, like in this episode with Dr. Mario Sacasa, oftentimes some of the best conversation, unfortunately, happens after we hit stop and we just have like a normal kind of human conversation. Oftentimes we leave that out. But this conversation in particular, the post-episode chat was just so good that I said, you know what, forget it. We're just going to leave it in. So you'll hear the episode kind of wrap up toward the end, but I would encourage you, if you've got the time, don't hit stop because some really good stuff, some really honest, I think practical stuff comes after that. So with all that in mind, friends, here's episode 78. Enjoy.
Even in the context of marriage, what we're saying is that the purpose of dating is to discover the individual. And so when couples are married, when they stop dating, that's a red flag in the relationship. And they stop seeing the eternal mystery that's there within the person.
Welcome to This Whole Life, a podcast for all of us seeking sanity and sanctity, and a place to find joy and meaning through the integration of faith and mental health. I'm Kenna and Millea, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm happy to bring you this podcast along with my husband, Pat Millea, a Catholic speaker, musician, and leader. We invite you to our kitchen table. Okay, not literally, but you're definitely invited into the conversations that we seem to keep having once the kids have scattered off to play and we're left doing the dishes. We're excited to share this podcast for educational purposes. It's not intended as therapy or as a substitute for mental health care. So let's get talking about this whole life.
I'm not gonna stand here with my friends down and
Welcome back to This Whole Life. It is so good to be with you all again. And we are particularly grateful for our guest today, Dr. Mario Sacasa. Welcome, Mario.
Thanks, Kenna. I am so delighted to be here with you guys on the podcast. Just a great time that I know we're going to have today. So thanks so much for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pat, my love, it is always good to be with you, even though we are in different locations as life would have it.
Different places. I don't like being apart from you, but I'll take it. It's a necessary evil. It's okay.
So sweet. So sweet.
And Mario, we actually got connected through Dr. Julia Sadusky, who was on our podcast earlier this year. And after she'd known, your work and our work, she was like, hey, you guys should get together. And sure enough, we had a great conversation and thought, my goodness, it would be awesome for our listeners to get to benefit from your work as a clinician and as a speaker and as a program creator. So for those who aren't familiar with Dr. Mario Sacasa, he is a licensed marriage and family therapist in practice for over 15 years and does the incredible work of integrating our Catholic faith with his counseling practice. He is the host of another podcast, Always Hope, which we'll link up in our show notes, a podcast providing solutions to life's challenges that are grounded in faith and psychology. And he travels around the U.S. Offering lectures on dating, marriage, sexuality, and the misunderstood virtue of hope. You can also check out Mario's work through his online courses. One is Dating Well, and the other is Overcoming Stress and Anxiety. And outside of all of that, Mario, I imagine your greatest joy is your marriage to your wife, Kristen, 22 years of marriage, and 4 sons, yes. One of whom we heard just had a milestone birthday.
Yeah, he's 21 now, so I can drink with my son. It's strange.
Beautiful.
So yeah. Legally, at least we could now. So
right.
It's wild. I don't know what's crazier. It's weird. I don't know if it's weirder to think that he's 21 or that his birth was 21 years ago. And isn't that sounds weird, right?
Yeah.
But it's like remember the event of his birth, like as a separate event from like his life. It's just, it's weird.
Time is
or that you're old enough to have a 21-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, listen, these gray hairs that you see on the beard, they are all well earned. I'm familiar. They're not there by accident.
Yep.
Exactly. They're not there by accident. So 21 years of parenthood will give you a few, that's for sure.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
But it's worth it
Well,
for an old fashioned with the boy. That's great.
It is worth it for an old fashioned with the boy. That is exactly right. That's all he wanted on his birthday, so I was happy to oblige.
Well, Mario, we start our episodes just stepping back into, getting connected and hearing about what's going on in each other's lives lately with a high and hard. So as our guest, if you would go first and just share a peek into what life has offered you.
Yeah, so a recent high would be my son's 21st birthday, for example. He's just an amazing young man. I'm so proud of him. And it's just awesome to be able to celebrate his life, and be able to celebrate him and the young person he is and the man he's becoming. And he's on the verge, he's about to graduate college and about to start taking next steps in his life. And so it's just great to be part of that journey with him. Also, my in-laws celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary recently, and we were all together in Florida celebrating both events within a couple days of each other. And that's just, a testament. My in-laws are amazing. There's still legacy that they've had in their life, and through their children, through the parish community that they've served for 40 years. They're just humble witnesses of the gospel, and so just grateful for them. I'm just honored to be part of the family, honestly. So it was great to celebrate them. And then a hard, I would say, this work that I think you guys are involved in, also this entrepreneurship, running your practice, having a podcast, doing these type of endeavors, they have their ebbs and flows, don't they? And there are moments where you feel like you're riding a wave up high and you're like, let's go, nothing's going to stop me. And then all of a sudden the wind just stops and you feel stuck in the tracks for a little bit. And it's like, oh, okay, Lord, what are we doing? Like, is this where to go? Where'd all that go? And so I would say the last month or so has kind of been in one of those periods. The last few days, been able to turn the corner a little bit, but a little bit of a period of discouragement here is trying to just feel like we're trying to get some momentum and keeping this thing afloat and keeping this thing moving forward. So I would say that would be the hard of recent memory.
If anyone appreciates that up and down, the peaks and valleys, you're talking to two of them for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
it is. It's like, all right, Lord, we discerned this. I know this was supposed to be, and you feel like, we're supposed to keep going. So I just continue on in faith. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Man. My love, you want to go next?
Yeah, I can. I'll start with my hard. I think, Mario, before we jumped on air here, Pat was sharing that we are preparing to move out of our family home closer to school, closer to work. And the hard would be, there's a lot of hard in that, but moving 9 people is not for the faint of heart. But it's that our kids are really sad and really struggling. They love our physical house. They love the neighborhood. They love the backyard. And we agree. And also there are things that are even higher priorities than that for our family right now. And so the hardest just as a parent when you have to make an unpopular decision in the family, and you have to, like, as you said, like, discern well and hold to it. And so I think for me, Pat, I didn't even tell you this, but on the way home from Mass, Pat and I drove separately because of some scheduling things yesterday. And so I had the girls and he had the boys in the car, and our 6-year-old, one of our twins, said, Mommy, yesterday, sister and I got to break a wishbone together. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And she's like, yeah. And my wish was that we don't move. And she just like stone cold, like stared. And I was like,
break my heart.
Okay.
Right?
Come on.
I was like, what do I do with that? And I look over at our teen daughter who's in the passenger seat next to me as like help a mom out, and she's got like tears in her eyes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, they've got me surrounded.
Yeah.
So it's hard to make those unpopular decisions as a parent, but so that is a hard. I'd say the high is, this podcast is produced under a parent organization called the Martin Center for Integration, and that has a mental health clinic with 2 offices, and I liken it to, maybe when you're preparing to welcome a second child into the family and you have that question of like, is my heart big enough, like, to love 2 children? And I've felt that about opening 2 offices where, they pretty much operate independent of each other. And so two groups of clinicians, like, is my heart big enough? Is my mind big enough to manage like double the amount of clinicians and clients and what have you, and care for them? And like, yeah, like God is so good. And it's been such a joyful season to welcome in these new folks, and to just get to know more incredible clinicians in the field. So feeling really grateful, feeling really blessed to be in this position of leadership, and feeling like he really heard my prayers. As I was like, I don't know if I can do this on my own. So very grateful for that.
That's great. Can I respond to the hard real quick?
Yeah.
Can I share a story?
Please.
So we moved from New Orleans, Louisiana to Charlotte, North Carolina in the summer of 2002, which is a lot bigger move than what you guys are about to do with your kids, which I know is only like 20 minutes into the city. But this was a bigger move. And certainly we laid out, we had mixed feelings about it, but the boys were by and large on board, although it was difficult. And so that first year being in the Carolinas, everybody kind of had at their own pace, different places where they were as they were adjusting to the new digs, to the new scenery, to the new space, being away from their friends and their community in Louisiana. So that first year, August of 23, we did a big family sit down, and everybody was home. Gabriel was home from college, and we just had a nice dinner, and then was able to ask everybody, all right, tell us one thing that was good about the year, one thing that was hard about the year, and one thing that we're looking forward to that we have hope about this upcoming year. And so everybody had an opportunity to share. And when we got to, of course, what was hard, lots of tears were being shared as they were expressing how difficult it was. But when we got to like what we were hopeful for the year, the story started to change. And what was really neat about it was particularly the youngest who was having one of the hardest times. You could see that he had just finally started to turn the corner. And what I told him at dinner that evening was, I said, listen, bud, the gift of family is that we can do hard things together. And that's the lesson that I want you to learn, is that like, no matter how hard life is, when you have family, when we have the security that we have here, you're going to be able to get through anything. And so regardless of how hard it is, we're going to get through it as a family. And that is a lesson definitively that I'm happy that my boys learned. As hard as the experience was, I'm not minimizing it, but I know that they got that lesson pretty well ingrained. And so I'm grateful. In the end, I'm grateful for everything and the way that it's played out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That hardship definitely has meaning. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if it's any glimpse into our family, by the way, that wishbone that they pulled was absolutely the wishbone from Thanksgiving back at the end of November. That's been sitting on our counter for whatever that is, 9 months. And now is the time to break it, because it's either we're going to throw it away anyway. So
it's not getting packed up into the new house. So it needs to be, it needs to be discarded one way or the other.
Did not need to make the trip. So we had a pretty unceremonious wishbone breaking when our children wished that we didn't move at all. So there you go. That's great. Oh, goodness.
Well, your high and hard.
Yeah, my heart is definitely just prepping to move. I fully accept and appreciate that this is the right decision for our family, and that it's going to be better for us to just be able to be a little bit closer to support networks and friends and work and school and church and all the things that we do. We're going to be closer to it post-move. We don't know where the new house is going to be yet, but it'll be within a certain radius, Mm-hmm. So I know that it's the right thing, but I am just a weak and sometimes whiny person, and the physical and mental demands of moving are things that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. So
moving stinks. Moving's the worst.
I went to bed at 1 a.m. last night, and
oh my gosh,
I'm bracing myself for many, many more nights like that in the next month. So so my heart is just like the tangible demands of moving, and get back to me in a month and maybe I'll be in a better place. But right now I'm staring down the barrel of a tough 3.5 weeks. So, that's going to be a little dicey. I think my high has been that we've just had a lot of really joyful moments this summer with our family in particular. Like you were talking about, Mario, just like the beauty of family, and for all the foibles and the difficulties that come with family life and a household of sinners. there's so much beauty and so much joy that can come from a family that's really invested in each other. And yeah, we've just had a lot of really beautiful glimpses of like kids playing baseball and t-ball. So we get to all go to games together, and kids are off playing on the playground, but we're hanging out in the grass and watching baseball, or time with extended family at the cabin and on the lake and doing jet skis and stuff like that. And just lots of other time just doing nothing really remarkable at all, and stuff that's not going to be we didn't take pictures of it, but just like family moments at home, watching movies or around the kitchen island, just fun conversations. It's been a fun time period as our oldest kids are becoming teenagers and high schoolers, and our youngest kids are becoming not toddlers anymore, but like kids with opinions and feelings and contributions. It's been a really fun process this summer to kind of watch that unfold. So
that sounds awesome. Yeah, that sounds really great.
It's a huge blessing. It's a huge blessing, man. Well, Mario, we're really excited to have you with us for many reasons. One of them is just to geek out about the beauties of family life and what it means to be Catholic entrepreneurs in the modern age. So thanks for doing that with us. But more importantly, for your expertise and for your background, we wanted to talk about dating today.
Yeah.
We told you that by and large, the audience of This Whole Life tends to be people who are kind of are leaving the typical young adult ages. I know it can be a little funny how different parishes and dioceses define young adult. Some people are like 18 to 40, which is a hilarious collection of like 3 different life stages that don't have a lot in common in that step, No. And I know in the work you do, you see a lot of differences and similarities between those stages. But, a lot of our folks are newly married, maybe with young kids, or they're certainly maybe in the final stages of discerning marriage with one person in particular. And without telling a whole story, I remember one conversation I had when I was doing parish youth ministry years ago with a guy who was a senior in high school, and he was having like a really significant relationship struggle with the girl that he was dating at the time. And the Holy Spirit intervened, and I just asked this guy point blank, "Hey, what's the point of dating at all? Like, why do you do this? Is it just because other people do? Do you think there's something that you get out of it? What's the point of it?" And without getting into his response, which I actually thought was a really good one, maybe that's where we can start, Mario, is whether someone is married or not, and even especially for our purposes, folks who are married, what's the purpose of dating? What's the point of it in your perspective?
Yeah, to hook up as often as possible, right? Joking.
And that's been our episode.
That's it.
Thanks,
that's
Mario.
the episode. I'm so happy I could join you guys. It was great. Thanks. Radio silence. What just happened? Hold on a second.
That's great.
It's a great question. As Catholics, we always love to ask the question, like, what's the meaning behind this? What's to tell us? What's the direction? Like, what's the intention? Why does this exist? Why are we here? It's a very Western mind type of question, but it's the right question to ask because we do need to make sure that we're on the same page. And so the program that I have, Dating Well, we step into this question by first just describing that, listen, there are progressions in relationships, and every relationship is moving towards something. And so friendship, casual dating, or more kind of exploratory dating, and then get into serious dating, where you're actually committed to one person, then engagement, and then marriage. If we look at the life course or this like a romantic relationship in this span or this continuum, what we would say is that the next stage assumes the stage before. And so you don't stop being friends when you're dating. And you don't stop dating when you're married, right? And so it's an important distinction that we have to make, because often we look at these segments as isolated entities, or it's like, I'm doing this and this and this, or just it's a free for all and doing whatever I want, whenever I want. But if we can look at these stages of a relationship as something that builds on the next one, then we can see, okay, the purpose of dating is ultimately to find a spouse. That's why you date, is that you're discerning marriage with a person. But even in the context of marriage, if we want to be even more broad in the definition, and what we're saying is that the purpose of dating is to discover the individual. And so when couples are married, when they stop dating, that's a red flag in the relationship. They've stopped pursuing each other. They've taken each other for granted. They think that they have each other figured out, and they stop seeing the eternal mystery that's there within the person. So again, back to what does our faith teach us about the individual? Well, we're both body, soul. That means there's something unique and unrepeatable at every single person. There's an eternal mystery inside of every single person. And marriage is a commitment to saying, I'm going to dedicate my life to exploring this mystery. My focus will be on exploring this mystery. And with the hope that by doing so, by committing myself to this person, that the demands of love will transform me and will transform her. And together we will become the saints that God's called us to be. But that somehow this union is just a prefigurement of what heaven is going to be, which is glaring into the eternal mystery of God himself. And so marriage is a precursor for that. So if we're talking about dating, then what I'm saying is that dating in the context outside of marriage is to try to discern and understand a person so that you can make a decision and see if this is who God's calling you to commit to. But then dating within the context of marriage is pointing towards that eternal mystery of saying that no matter how long I've been together with this individual, there's still something new here. There's still something worth discovering. There's still something new that I can fall in love with. There's still something new that I can choose to see. And it's that disposition of the heart that we want to make sure is always active in the context of married life.
Mm. And that senior in high school said almost exactly what you just said, Mario. It was slightly less eloquent. I'll admit that, but he gave a really good answer. And I love what you're saying. Awesome. that this beautiful process of discovery of a person, of appreciation of their dignity, of desiring connection with them, and that there's an end to that. You know, if you're dating, the end is discernment of marriage to this individual, and if you're already married, the end is journeying with that person toward the ultimate discovery in heaven, you know. Yep. And something you said struck me as well, that the end of dating in a marriage is kind of a red flag. And I can't tell you how many conversations, I mean, you know, Kenna can't ethically get into clinical conversations, but I know that she and I have had so many conversations with married couples over the years. And one just maybe a month or two ago specifically jumps out at me where, you know, if someone tells me that their marriage is in a place that they are sad about, upset about, angry about, they feel disconnected, they feel like the other person isn't invested in them anymore. Every time I ask those people, do you guys go on dates? The answer is essentially always no. And it's a tricky chicken egg thing, I think, because, you know, what I would propose is, how about you guys go on dates? And they might come back and say, you want me to spend more time with the person that I find most difficult in my life right now? And,
yes,
you know, that people have even asked me, well, are you saying that we're in a tough place in our marriage, we're suffering in our marriage because we don't go on dates? Because I'm telling you that we don't go on dates because we're suffering in our marriage. Yeah. And what I hear you saying is that those things are kind of inexorably tied together, that dating in your marriage, dating your spouse is no protection from the sufferings of marriage by any means, but it gives you the kind of connection to weather the storms and to will the good of your spouse, even when there's disagreement and suffering.
Yeah. Well, see, it's not enough for us to be parenting colleagues, right? Or parenting coworkers. It's not enough for us to be good roommates, right? Like those things we can achieve with just about anybody else. There's spousal love, the spousal dimension of a relationship is something unique to only two people. And so there is a demand for something more, for us to grow, for us to be intimate in a full sense of that word. And so one of the things that I do as a point of intervention when I'm working with couples that come in with a story like you just described, and I do this almost universally when couples, when they come in, is I say, let's just start the session by just tell me how you guys connected, how you fell in love. Just getting them to share the story of their relationship is telling, because we remember things a certain way. Memory, we know, is subject to our current state of emotion. And so why we remember, how we remember, what we remember, all those things are of supreme importance. And so but what I want is couples in that moment, because they're coming in, you know, when they come to the marriage counselor, obviously they're in a difficult place. And I recognize and understand that. But I want them to at least reconnect with why they chose each other. that they made a decision out of complete free will, that they fell in love with this person, that there was something about them that they were discovering. There was some decision that they made that they were attracted to. There was something about this individual that lit a spark in them. There was something here that was real. And we want to reconnect with what that was. Because if it happened once, then we can do it again. And sometimes what couples need is just the ability to reconnect with that because of years of hardship, years of despondency, years of being taken for granted, years of a lack of intimacy, that it starts drying up. And when it starts drying up, we get cynical or we get defensive or we start putting walls up. Again, rightfully so, we don't want to get hurt. And so we start putting these barriers up. But the barriers only reinforce that withdrawal. They reinforce that avoidance. They reinforce that moving away disposition or action. And so if we could just stop and just get them to share your story. Okay, tell me again, like why it is that you fell in love. And this is something that I would encourage any of the listeners that may be in a difficult situation. It's just reconnect with that. Like, how old are you? What was going on? Why did you choose this person? See if you can find those things again, and somehow just like bring them back into your imagination. Then we have something to work with. Now we have some emotion. Now we have something that we can say, all right, let's work on trying to reclaim that. And not that we're going to go back, and I'm not at all in favor of nostalgia. That's not what I'm saying. Don't confuse me. But just trying to reconnect with those emotions in a way that we can utilize them in the here and now and say, whatever it was that worked then, we want to try to recreate some of that in the present context.
Sounds like asking a couple to kind of go back to their Galilee moment a little bit. Jesus, after his resurrection, tells his apostles, go back to Galilee and I'll meet you there. Go back to the place where you met me first. We've got more work to do, but I want to re-encounter you in this original place of encounter. It's a beautiful way of thinking about it, I think. And, in your work, Mario, in, creating your course, Dating Well, I can imagine that you have heard many, many stories of people who want to recover a sense of love and connection in their marriage. They want to get back to this kind of discovery of the other person. What are some of the most common mistakes that you see people make around dating? We've established that maybe not dating at all is probably one of the mistakes. Beyond that, what are some common kind of missteps that people make?
Yeah, so dating right now is just, it's a lot harder than when you and I were dating, right? Is all I have to say.
Oh, brother.
It's a completely different animal. And for folks who have been married for over 10 years, they just don't understand this reality. This is a real issue that the church, quite honestly, has to have more attention to. Single people outnumber married people for the first time in American history. And so this changes the dynamics of how we think of relationships. And so the fact that average age of marriage now for men is 29, first marriage, average age for women is 28. This is a lot later than what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so dating has just become this challenge, this thing that it isn't, like I said, what it used to be. Now we're introducing apps and people relocate. People don't know how to talk in person anymore. People feel suspect to individuals coming up to them. So the challenges of dating are many. All right. So if we can just kind of break it up maybe into two, would you say the most, I would say 2 buckets here. All right. So let's kind of talk about the casual dating. When I say casual dating, I mean exploratory. I'm not, of course, encouraging chastity. I'm just saying when you're going on dates with people, going on the apps, getting to know people, you haven't really committed to anything. There's particular challenges there, but then there's also particular challenges when you've committed and now in a more kind of a boyfriend, girlfriend committed stage. So what are the things that I hear the most? Sure. Well, in that first bucket, I would say the challenges are, one, just knowing how to present yourself, it's like marketing. You got to know how to be able to present yourself. You got to know how to be able to interact. You got to know how to be able to talk. For guys, we have to reclaim a sense of wooing somebody. We have to reclaim an ability of being able to see her, understand her. We live in such a technological age that we have forgotten what romance is. We've forgotten how to pursue somebody, how to bring flowers, how to do things that may seem old-fashioned, but these gestures used to work because they speak and communicate to a woman so beautifully. And so I think there's an element of that we have to reclaim. Women, certainly, there can be times where despondency can kind of fill into the void. So we want to be caution our heart. We want to make sure our hearts are open, have hope, certainly as we're engaging in the dating space. And again, I'm saying all this within the context of chastity. I want to be abundantly clear. I made my joke at the beginning of this of the podcast, but of course, I am of course encouraging chastity in this context.
And despite my joke, I did receive that as a joke from you.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And so also that means that we just want to allow the Holy Spirit to work with us as we're dating. We don't have to go into every first date with the expectation or asking the question, is this person going to be my spouse? That's not the question we need to answer at the first date. All we need to know is, am I going to have a second date, right? So again, just reducing some of the pressure, maintaining a disposition of openness, reclaiming some things that have been lost. This is the work that we have to do. This is the work that we have to encourage our young people again, to teach them the skills that they need to be taught to learn how to date again. All right. And then when it comes into kind of getting into a serious relationship, some of the challenges are, I would say, one, again, pressure. Sometimes there's so much pressure to have to know, especially if I'm in my 30s. Am I wasting this person's time? Like how long is too long? Just letting go a little bit of the pressure, just giving space again for the Lord to guide, working through whatever real challenges are there, but not trying to rush things along. I think communication is a lost art. I think negotiation is a lost art. I think patience is a lost art. I think these are skills that we need to reestablish, right? And why is that important when it comes to discernment of a relationship? Well, as we've already been hinting at, dating is leading towards something. It's leading towards marriage. And there's a phrase in seminary formation that we say, as the seminarian, so goes the priest. And I think that applies also when it comes to dating. As the dating couple, so goes to marriage. That sometimes we think, oh, well, just a sacrament is going to be this magic trick and it's going to change things. No, like the patterns of the relationship that are being formed at the ground level in the dating relationship are what's going to be brought into the marriage. Now, often when I see couples, we're working those patterns. We're trying to reestablish, rebuild that foundation, break some of those patterns that have been ingrained for many, many years. But again, in my course, Dating Well, one of the things I'm trying to accomplish is knowing what patterns are that happen downstream. I think we can help couples just become a little bit more aware to what bad patterns are and how to establish healthy ones. So, looking at this in two buckets, I reiterate, the challenges are mixed depending on where you're at.
Well, and I am really just being drawn in, Mario, about how it seems to me you've set this whole topic on this foundation of mystery. And when you say, that men need to, remember how to woo and kind of bring back these old-fashioned practices, just that idea that, that a man would look upon a woman with this sense of wonder and awe and mystery of like, I want to spend my whole life getting to know you. I trust that you are so uniquely wonderful and like beautiful that even in 3 years of dating, I haven't exhausted all there is to know about you. Right. And so I'm just drawn in of like, yeah, that's like a dozen roses right there, just to speak about the reality of like how we look at each other and the story we tell ourselves about the other. And I think you're absolutely right that when I think about, personally or professionally, couples that I've encountered where, they are in a place of, in a desert, in terms of intimacy and connection. I do wonder, do they believe that there is anything to be known that they don't already know, about the other? So I'm really just struck by that and want to name that again. And I'm intrigued as you're talking about, okay, what are these, did you call them patterns, Mario, like addressing like unhelpful ones and helping in your course learn healthy patterns. Patterns
of interaction. Yep.
Yeah, say a bit more about that or what you're moving couples toward when you're helping them.
Yeah, well, let me speak to just what you said about seeing each other. I think that's an important piece. There's something lost in that, how we notice, how we see, how we really gaze into each other. About a month or so ago, one of my dear friends got married, and my favorite part of the wedding ceremony is looking at the groom as he's staring at his bride coming down the aisle for the first time. And so I know everybody's attention usually goes towards the bride. She's the main event. I get it. She's the star of the show. But I'm going this way. I'm staring at the altar because I want to see the groom and what he's experiencing as he's laying eyes on his wife for the first time. It's a great tradition that we have of the husbands not being able to see the bride until the doors open there at the start of the wedding ceremony. I think it's a beautiful tradition because it preserves what we've been speaking about, this notion of mystery, that there's something that's worth withholding until a particular moment, right? And so even when it comes to like dating, let's backtrack that, right? What woman doesn't want to be noticed that way, right? What woman doesn't want to be seen with those eyes? The problem in our day and age is that we don't know how to see each other in this sense anymore. That we've fallen into a sense of utility or a sense of usury, or we've been jaded and we don't know how to view actions anymore with openness or with hope. There's a learned helplessness that emerges at times in dating as well. And again, I understand why those things happen. All I'm saying is that when they happen, there is a cost. And we're trying to reestablish a sense of hope, a sense of mystery, a sense of seeing, a sense of pursuit, a sense of understanding of the other person. Okay. And so I think that needs to be established, and that's there, all the way through. So when I speak about patterns, I'm speaking about the interactions that we fall into. But by the time couples come to me for marriage counseling, it's almost like a well ingrained algorithm that they know what the other person's going to say before they even say it, and they already know what the response is that they're going to give to the thing that they think that the other person's going to say. And it's like an algorithm. It's like, you say this, I say this, you say this, I say this, and bam, 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 bam. And then we end up in a spot, right? And this is what Sue Johnson refers to as the demon dialogues. And Sue Johnson, the founder of, EFT, refers to it as like a dance. It's like this bad dance that we fall into, these demon dialogues. We just get into this rut. Well, the reason is, why? Why do we get into this rut? Well, if we take a disposition of kind of, I guess, openness, what we can see is that oftentimes it's poor repair attempts, or people are trying their best to understand. People don't have the right language to be able to communicate what they're experiencing, and so it comes out sideways. People don't know how to process that. So the work of therapy is trying to put language to things that we're experiencing. And when we can put language to those things, now we can start making changes. Now, the next time that the thing is said, I can respond differently because I know that what you actually are trying to say is something other than what you just said. So I'm going to do my best to sidestep that and actually work on what the thing is that you're trying to communicate. But that takes some effort and some energy to be able to recorrect and course correct. What I'm trying to do in the dating phase is, you're not obviously at that level of the relationship, but at least just trying to learn how to converse, how to negotiate, how to have appropriate boundaries, knowing how this art of discernment is beginning, how to be able to make decisions together. Is one forcing the other person? Is one too passive? Right? It's just so that from the beginning, you're establishing a level of healthy communication, a healthy sense of knowing where my agency ends and where the Lord makes up the gap. Right. So that you're able to begin the foundation of a process. And that process is what you're going to build on, as you move forward in marriage. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah. No, it does. It does. And I think and love Sue Johnson's work, and use it with a lot of clients. And her book, Hold Me Tight. I say to folks who, for whatever reason, maybe can't come to couples therapy, I say, like, second best choice would be to read that book and to practice those scripts. And exactly as you said, she helps you put language and understand how to communicate in a way that keeps defenses low. So you don't step back into the pattern, right? You don't step back into the demon dialogue that drove you apart to begin with. So, kind of with that, Mario, I'm thinking about what we each bring to the relationship. that whether, again, we're in that, serious dating or married and still wanting to pursue each other, recognizing that we're not just going to coast and be on autopilot for this marriage, like to really, live out the sacrament. We need to be intentional. We need to be actively engaged. And thinking about what each of us bring and how we can, I guess, be responsible for being our most healthy self, our most well-integrated self, so that we can date well, both in the single years and in marriage. So what do you recommend in terms of mind, body, soul, like to help people be in a place to engage in this process well, because it is one that requires a lot of ourselves. What does it look like to be mentally healthy while dating?
That's a great question. Well, first, it starts by having a prayer life. We need to be making sure that prayer is a foundational element. Is a foundational element in our lives. We have to be able to know and hear and understand how God operates within our lives. That's a highly individual question, right? How does God operate within my life? Now, again, we have the church, obviously. I don't want to sound too postmodern with that statement, but the truth is that God loves each of us individually, and he communicates and operates within us. And so the gift of the church having so many different devotions, for example, is because the church recognizes that there's a universality of people within her ranks. And so different devotions are different pathways that are going to lead us towards the Lord. And so knowing, understanding, how does God speak to me? How have I made big decisions in the past? How have I come to peace about those decisions? Right? Having some type of foundation, some type of groundwork of knowing how God operates within my life, I think is a key here, because it's gonna play out when it comes to dating, not even in marriage, but just in dating, where you're like, is this going well? Is this something? Is it not going well? What do I need to be paying attention to? How much time can I give it? Right? Knowing how to be able to have a sense of the Lord and how the Lord operates within our life. So I would stay there. In terms of a mental capacity, I think one, the ability to reflect, as we've been speaking about, and the willingness to be able to grow and to learn in the context of this relationship. That's going to be foundational also in terms of how we approach this dating process. Am I willing to grow? Am I willing to learn? Am I willing to see and understand what God is up to see and understand this person? That openness, I think, is essential as well. Again, with parameters, with boundaries. Or part of that isn't, when I say openness, I'm not saying let's just be a floor mat or let's be acquiescing or people pleaser. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying openness to growth. See, if marriage is the path to holiness for the three of us in this conversation, and probably for many of your listeners, then it's the process of actualizing that life that you're going to become a saint. So again, you're not a saint on the day of your wedding, but you hope that you're a saint by the end of it, right? There's the journey always that we want to make sure that we're appealing to. So I would say those two things right there are going to help you out tremendously. Now, when it comes to dating, and there's all sorts of practicalities that we can get into in terms of how to meet people, how to approach people, where's a good place, where not good places, if someone's approaching you, how to respond, how to not respond. Like we can go into that, kind of area if you want. But I think for the audience that we're speaking about, it's mostly in the context of marriage. And so if we're saying reclaiming a sense of foundation, right? What's the foundation here? Foundational notion of prayer, foundational notion of openness, a foundational notion of mystery, of willingness to explore. Again, just making it open, making that open again. Where do we begin? I think one of the things that, in addition to, as we said, like helping couples to reclaim or remember why they got married, another element that I think has been lost, and maybe this is another way of saying what we've been communicating, is that it's wonderful just to encourage couples to play together, right? Like we have to reclaim a sense of play in marriage. And again, that's not being childish. I'm not saying that, but we have lost a sense of play. So dating is both that exploration that we've been speaking about, but dating is also a sense of play. Like, and so how do we play as spouses? How do we interact? Play is is the language of childhood. It's the way that children discover the world. Play is of supreme importance for children. It's the way that they understand rules, that the way they understand how the world works, that they understand negotiation, that they understand hierarchy, that they understand all of those things. And we lose sight of that in marriage when we become adults. And so I strongly encourage couples that even if they can't communicate, if they can't talk, then maybe there's a place where they can start by reclaiming a sense of play. How can you play together as spouses? How can we reintroduce that language into marriage? And then maybe if we can do that, then again, we're starting to break down some of the defenses that allow us to re-see this individual as my spouse, reclaim that as an idea, and then potentially even be able to open up then spaces where we can start having some of those more hard, difficult conversations.
And what I love about that idea of prioritizing play, Mario, is the idea of, philosophers who are much smarter than me have talked a lot about play over the generations. And one of the definitions that I love is that play is the kind of activity that is good for its own sake.
Yeah, that's good.
It's
right.
not a means to an end. It is good merely because we are doing it, right? And
Yes.
you can put all kinds of things in that category of playing golf or a board game or the arts or these things that don't have like economic, technological value of any kind, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that is actually a really good connection to something you said earlier, that there's a temptation, especially in marriage, to see my spouse as just a co-parent or a business partner or someone that I'm managing a household with, right?
Yep.
Those connections are good, but those have an end beyond the spouses, right? It's
That's
for
right.
the
That's
children.
right.
It's so that we get the menu set. It's so that we're ready for the in-laws to visit for Christmas, whatever it is. But just restoring that value of play seems like it brings the focus back where it should be, that there are things that we do as spouses merely because they are good for us to do together, that no one gets anything out of it other than us restoring a connection and sharing an experience together. I love that kind of mentality.
That's it, because the demands of life are real, and I get it. Like we all fall into it. It's like sometimes we don't even have the conversation where we just take the tasks and the things that have to happen and we divvy it up. It's like, all right, you got your list, I got my list. As long as you take care of your 5 things, I take care of my 5 things. Like we're squared away. We're good. Okay, great. Like let's keep going. Break. All right, team huddle over. Let's keep going. Right. And so like I get it. I get it. Like the demands of life are taxing. They're absolutely taxing. But if those tasks become the final means or the final judgment or the final definition of the relationship, that's when it becomes problematic. It's like an inversion happens. Now the main thing no longer is the main thing. The spouse is no longer the spouse. Now there are all these other lesser relational qualities that we can put to it, right? And so that's why it's in conversations like this are so important for spouses to listen, because we want to reclaim that. It's not that we're saying that those tasks don't need to, of course they need to happen. Like Pat, like you said, you have to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning because you got to move. Like that's just not going to like that you have to do that, right? Like you just have to do it, right?
If
Absolutely.
I don't do that, our marriage suffers for many different reasons. Yeah.
Exactly. Like so things like that have to happen, but it's not that that's the end. That's the sole purpose of the union. There's something more, and it's that something more that we always want to remind ourselves of, because we lose sight of it. The negativity bias is real. We put our focus on the things that are the most threatening, that are the most present, that are the most before us. Okay. And it's important. And I get it. We have to do that. But every so often we have to reclaim this sense of wonder. We have to open up to these positive emotions again, and being able to have our eyes be uplifted. And so that we're seeing the forest for the trees. So we're seeing just even the sun that's shining on the forest in the midst of the trees, right? We have to reclaim that. And so often in relationships, we see everything through this technical quid pro quo, mentality that we forget. And as I've been saying all along, we forget to our peril.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask about, other pitfalls that a marriage might encounter that would pull them out of this kind of dating mentality And I think a good jumping off point is something that you brought up earlier related to folks dating before they're married, which is something that I feel like Ken and I have both kind of identified increasingly over the past 15 years or so, which is just you talked about the intense pressure around dating.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I get it. Like people have dreams for their life. They think that the Lord has called them to marriage and they would like to fulfill that goal today, please. So I get the pressure, and there's lots of, social and cultural reasons for that kind of pressure too. And I totally get it. But I always am sad to hear stories of people who go on first dates and they get run through basically a job interview almost. There's no real sense of discovery of the person. It's like matching them up against kind of an imaginary ideal candidate and seeing if they fit well enough that I can go on a second date with you. And there's almost like a utilitarian view of that approach to dating, more in the marriage scope though. What are some like maybe habits, ruts that you've seen couples get into that might be like warning signs that they're maybe moving away from this kind of discovery of the other person? What are things for husbands and wives to pay attention to as maybe yellow flags of like, we may not be in a dating mentality anymore before things get too far down the road?
Yeah. So another book that's quite popular with marriage counseling in the literature is The 5 Love Languages. All right. And so we could debate the validity of it or not. Okay, fine. But at least the concept exists. And the concept I think has some merit, which is that everybody has their own way of receiving and giving love. Okay. And so in Gary Chapman's book, he talks about words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, material gifts, and acts of service as being these 5 domains or ways, right, that people receive or receive and give love. Okay, it's not about getting into particulars of those 5 domains, but to answer the question you're asking, Pat, is this: what would be a yellow flag? Is that when was the last time you loved your spouse the way that they feel loved? Right. So if you know that they're a quality time person, when was the last time you actually just spent a little quality time with them? Right. If you know that they're a material gifts person, when was the last time you actually, were intentional about buying them something that you think would be of great benefit to them? If they're a physical touch person, when was the last time you just held their hand? Right? Physical touch isn't just sexual, right? We're just talking about non-sexual contact here. If you know that, when was the last time you did that? Right? That's a question that I would ask. And if you don't know that, well, then there's a question that's worth asking, right? Yeah. If you don't actually even know what your spouse's love language, or you don't know, again, whether it fits in those 5 domains doesn't matter specifically, but if you don't know how your spouse receives love or gives love, well, then we got some work to do, right? And that's where John Gottman's language of the love maps is so important in terms of understanding, like, what's the map to your spouse's heart, right? And that may sound cheesy as a concept, but it's actually quite profound. Do we actually know what those little things are? Who is she? Who is he? And how do you actually get to him? And if you don't know how to get to him, and how are you asking? Like, are you asking those questions? And if you do know, but you haven't been incorporating those things for some time, again, it doesn't even have to be any judgment. It's like life's busy. I get it. Things happen, all that stuff. But if it's been a little bit since you've actually met them on their turf, well, then I would say that's a yellow flag. And that's something that's worth spending some time, attending to and asking and saying, oh, okay, well, then what can I do to actually give them what they're looking for and love them and meet them where they're at?
I love that. And I think what is helpful about the love languages is that they're very concrete. They're really easy to understand. It's not, it's meant for the layman and the laywoman to read. And so if that's not something you're familiar with, like, absolutely, just it's a quick quiz online, even, just to get a sense of to locate yourself. I'm thinking about, and Mario, I imagine you and Kristen have been there, like you're in those trench year.
I'm a marriage therapist. My marriage is perfect. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just I don't even know what the question is. I don't know what the question is you're about to ask. But.
Kenna's marriage is also perfect. Mine,
that's exactly right. It's
not always.
Yours is not. But Kenna's is great. No. The worst part about being a marriage therapist is that I'd know better, right? Like that's the only difference is that like when the words come out of my mouth or I say the dumb thing, it's like I have a PhD in this. I have no excuse. I can't plead ignorance. Like I'm sorry. You know that I'm an obtuse idiot sometimes.
But when I'm thinking about this, like when I'm speaking to couples who are, you know, they've got 3 under 5 years old and they're both working and, you know, they're just making ends meet and they're trying to live the faithful, you know, Catholic, like just all the things, right? Like, what do you say to them to help them get in the boat that dating is worth it, right? To acknowledge that it is a sacrifice of time and effort and usually money.
Yep.
And it's also worth it. Like, what wisdom do you impart?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a big extravagant expense. It doesn't have to be the trip to Cancun. I mean, if you want to do the trip to Cancun, hey, that's fine. You know, I'm happy to join you guys. You know, like it would be great too, right? But it doesn't have to be that. Like I get it. We've times in our relationships, obviously, like the finances have been tight. Listen, Chris and I, we got married right out of college. In our first 2 years of marriage, we did missionary work, where we each received a stipend of $150 a month. All of our living expenses were covered, but then we each got $150 a month of a living expense and 150 of those $300 had to go to the car note that I was paying at the time. So we had $150 a month that we could use between us that included all groceries, gas, going out money, anything, right? So I mean, it was tight. I mean, we would go out to the coffee shops where we can get $1.50 coffee and it had free refills and we would just split the cup. Like that's those were dates, right? This is 22 years ago, wherever it was. And so I just want to tell people, it's not so much about like the expense of it. It's really about carving out the time, and that's in being intentional about that. So yes, the scenario you spoke about, Kenna, of a couple that has 3 kids under 5. Yeah, time is going to be very, very limited. Maybe in those first 6 months when the child is born, and they don't know when's daylight, when's nighttime. They don't know up from down yet. Obviously, like all hands on deck, that's a hard time. You're going to be happy just to sneak a minute in with your spouse. Like, I get it, right? But once things settle a little bit and there's a sleeping rhythm that happens, even if it's in those 2 hours from 8 to 10 where everybody is sound asleep and you know that one hasn't woken up yet because they don't need to be nursed, what do you do in that time? Is that the time where you can just sit and watch a show? You don't even have to watch a movie, but maybe you guys can agree to watching a TV show together. It can be something like The Chosen if you want to watch something religious specifically, or there's plenty of great TV shows on Netflix, on Hulu, on HBO Max, right? On Prime Video. Ask your friends. There's a lot of nonsense out there, but ask your friends about what's good and what's quality, and give yourself something that you can actually just watch. All the old TV shows are back on. You can watch The Cosby Show. You can watch Full House. You can watch, if you don't want anything that's modern, all the stuff that we watched growing up is all available. Just doing something, again, that gives you some space to just unwind and to be together. Playing a board game, learning how to play Rummy 500, right? And any of these things are ideas that don't require a lot of time or a lot of investment. And then even with the kids, when you have them, taking them on the walk and seeing if they fall asleep, or letting them play a little bit, giving them space in the playground where maybe you can have some of those conversations where, there's going to be interruptions, but you take what you can when you can take it, knowing that this is a busy season in life and this busy season will end for sure. But you just want to make sure that even in the busyness, that there's still these little touch points that are happening along the way, and you haven't completely lost that notion of this person being my spouse.
Beautiful. I think if I'm right, Pat, we are almost out of time. Am I gauging this correctly?
Yep. Okay. That's probably about right. Yep. Mario's got stuff to do. Yeah.
I mean, we could do this all day, to quote Steve Rogers.
I just have a lot of concrete questions I want to ask you and Kristen personally, but I will save those another day. So Mario, what would be, if you wrap up here, a challenge by choice? Something concrete that our listeners could, take into real life to help live out some of what you shared with us today?
Yeah. I think the first thing is, I mean, I've said a lot in terms of practical skills, but sincerely, like if somebody is in a rough situation and they're really struggling, the first thing I would tell somebody to do is to pray for your spouse, right? Pray for your marriage. Pray for your spouse, pray for your marriage, and bring that before the Lord. Often we look at prayer as kind of like a last resort, or we think it's some magic trick or some, I don't even know, just something ethereal, that we lose sight of the practical reality that prayer is. And there's power in bringing our struggles before the Lord. I mean, this is the priestly nature of our baptism, where we have the capacity to intercede, that we can bring forth what we're experiencing in life. And so I would say that as a challenge to pray for your spouse. And what prayer will do is it'll start, hopefully, if it's working, starting to soften your heart. Start opening up, start giving space for God to intervene and for God to find ways to be able to have some of these conversations. And then if things do open up or opportunities present themselves, then have the courage to pursue them, right? So I would say that would be the challenge, is to pray for your spouse. And even if you're in a healthy marriage and everything's great and everything's going wonderful, sometimes spousal prayer is a lost art that needs to be reclaimed. And so just in general, I would encourage folks who are listening to take a few minutes to really pray for your spouse, pray for your marriage, and praying to see God's grace operating within the midst of your union.
Love it.
Pat, are you taking us home?
No, I thought you were going to pray. Lady, I'm happy to pray. You know what? Nope, I'm inspired. It's happening. I'm praying for you because Mario told me to.
Sorry.
And the rest of you listeners can just be a part of this prayer if you want to, but I'm praying for my bride. Just kidding. I will lead us all in a prayer for the good of dating and engagements and marriages all over the world. Let's pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, you are the Lord of love, the Lord of life. And God, we know that you love when your children share in your love. So we ask for your blessing on each of us today, Lord, that in whatever life stage we all find ourselves in, that we can live within your love and that we can find freedom and joy in that love. Lord, I pray for all those who are discerning their vocation, that they are discerning your plan for their life and their path of holiness. I pray for all those, especially who are in the process of dating and are in the initial stages of discernment around who they might be called to marry. I pray for clarity and for wisdom for them. Lord, I pray for those who are more seriously dating, those who are engaged, those who are thinking that they may have an understanding of the individual that you have called them to share this life with. And I pray for the courage and the humility that they need to step with joy into that vocation. Lord, I pray for all of those who are married, for those who are living out this vocation of holiness, this vocation of love with you and with one another. And Lord, I pray in particular for those who are finding marriage difficult right now, for those who know separation and division and frustration in their marriage. And Lord, I pray for mercy, for forgiveness, for restoration, and for healing in all of us who are married, so that we can love you better in the ways that we love our spouse. And Lord, we ask for the prayers of St. Louis and Zelly, of all your married saints throughout the generations. And we entrust all these prayers to you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dr. Mario Sacasa, what a joy, brother. Thanks so much for being with us. Where can people learn more about you and your work and your courses after this episode here?
Yeah, I encourage people, please, to head on over to my website, drmariosacasa.com, drmariosacasa.com. That'd be the easiest way. Or certainly find me on YouTube. Check out the podcast, Always Hope. You can find it in any podcast app that you like. If you like the video, then it's there for you on YouTube and on Spotify. I've been doing the show since 2018. have over 180 episodes, and it's been a great gift of a ministry to be able to offer it to people. So if you've enjoyed this conversation that we've had, then please, please, please head on over and subscribe and check out all the amazing episodes that I have with such talented people. And the two of you will be on a future episode, so we're gonna get you guys on soon. So we're excited for that.
That's right. Yeah, we're looking forward to it, man. I would be sad if this was the only time that we had scheduled to talk. So I'm glad that we've got another time to connect. That'll be good.
Yep, absolutely. Me too. I'm
thanks
looking
for
forward
that.
to it.
We'll put all those links in the show notes for folks and in the episode description so they can follow along with the good work that you're doing. So thank you again, Mario, for taking the time for all your work and ministry in building up individuals and families around the country. Thanks for that. Friends, we would love for you to rate and review This Whole Life on whatever podcast player you've discovered. You can let us know what struck you most, the questions that you have for Dr. Sacasa that we could maybe pass along to him, and post some replies on Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram, and that's the way you would find those answers at This Whole Life Podcast. Also on Facebook at This Whole Life Podcast, and you can check out our website, thiswholelifepodcast.com. On behalf of my beloved bride, who I'm going to pay attention to her love languages in a particular way this evening and in the weeks to come, and with more gratitude to Dr. Mario Sacasa. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Cut.
Cut.
That was so great and fun. That was awesome, man.
Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome.
Oh
You're
my
welcome,
gosh.
guys.
Half the time,
And
I
thank
was
you,
like,
Holy Spirit, 'cause I
where
got
were
a-
you? And go ahead.
Well, I got a low battery warning in my AirPods, and I was like, oh no, come on. But I think we're good.
It worked out. It worked out like Hanukkah, a miracle of
Patron
the
saint.
candles.
Yeah, that's right, the candles. No, I kept thinking, like, where were you in 2003, man? Like, you could have saved me a lot of heartache and a lot of issues in 2003. There is such a fun. I guess I've said it to a couple of people, but that whole pressure thing you were talking about, there is this this funny pendulum. I feel like we're like in the early 2000s. I think we were not intentional enough by and large about dating and discernment and things like that. And there were mistakes that a lot of us made because of that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the pendulum has totally gone the other way, where it's become just this like mechanical process, and there's no consistent sense of like freedom and exploration. And like, maybe we don't get married, but how about we just like hang out and have a good time in a way that's healthy? It just, it's so
okay.
good.
It's okay. Dating can be just that. It's okay. Like it's okay. I think and I don't know why it happened so you say for us in the early 2000s, maybe in the Catholic context, but in the Protestant context, the I Kissed Dating Goodbye book came out in the late 90s.
That's right.
And so that was kind of the prime when all of that was happening. And that just wrecked people. That was, Joshua Harris has since recanted the book. The book is off the market. Him and his wife are divorced. Tragically, he's lost his faith. Tragically, I mean, he's not even a practicing Christian anymore. And so it's an awful scenario that played itself out. Well, that's the fruit, unfortunately, of that level of rigidity surrounding this.
Yes,
and I don't know why in Catholic circles this experiment has already been played out in the evangelical Protestant world. Like it's already been played out, and it's failed miserably. We don't need to be reconstructing what was already played out with disastrous ramifications.
Seriously.
So folks, like just relax, and I don't know why. I don't know why it's come to this. I have speculations on it. But
we're
it is
concerned.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just delayed feedback thing. What concerns me is, to your point, Mario, of like, and if this is how you dated,
if this is how what's your marriage going to be like? Exactly. That's exactly right. Holy buckets. That's exactly right. That's exactly
right. One thing going for us, we know how to have a good time together. Like that was like the benefit of meeting in a bar. Like we know how to we date really well. Okay.
Yes.
Other stuff we need to figure out, but like
But that
to your first kiss being in a bar.
Yeah.
One of them is that you can't tell your kids about your first kiss until a certain age, right?
So once they're old enough, you can tell them where it was.
But there is a definite way that has served us well in our marriage, right? If you can if you
Absolutely.
can angle that that energy in the right direction, you can go a long way in a good direction. You know?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I travel and I do dating talks on college campuses to young adults. And there was one woman, this was at a college campus, and she wasn't one of the students. Okay. She was one of the volunteers or one of the campus ministers or focus. I can't remember what she was. Right. But she was one of the leaders in the group. And she goes, in a first date, she goes, don't you think it's appropriate in a first date for a guy to disclose his pornography use?
Right. No, that happens all the time.
I said, absolutely not. Are you out of your mind? I was like, what guy is going to freaking come into a first date with that on the agenda? Like, no.
Why doesn't he just put it on his profile?
Yeah, put it on his profile.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like and I understand from her disposition,
it's like
mystery,
like you were saying.
Well, from her disposition, it's like back to the checklist or the job interview that it's like, well, you better come out real quick so we're not wasting anybody's time, buddy.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, that just takes away the mystery, the exploration, the sense of trust. Do I even trust you? I got to trust you enough to be able to disclose that.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something that's going to come out in the first date. Right. And even if it comes out in 6 months later, well, then you discern what you're supposed to like these are conversations that have to happen gradually.
Right.
And that's part of what has been lost. That's kind of what I was saying earlier in terms of like this gradual progression of relationships is just non-existent anymore.
Yeah.
And I think we need to reclaim some of that to give people space to just like, hey, chill out.
Oh my gosh. Seriously. And just like the lack of hope there is for like healing and restoration. Like, let's say some guy does have some like deep-seated pornography addiction. By all means, that's a red flag. But that does not mean that he is damaged goods and he or she is damaged goods and can never be a faithful spouse. You know what I mean? Just, that's so tough.
Yeah. So like some of the practicalities of that, I mean, and I know Kenna, you said you had a lot of practical questions, but like some of it is even just thinking through how you orchestrate a first date. So if your first date is just getting coffee and sitting across the table from each other, that feels a little bit more like an interview. If you can grab the coffee and actually go on a walk in the park, well, now you've changed the dynamics where you're walking, you're engaging in something social, you're outside. There's other things that kind of draw your attention. You can talk to each other without having to be like, right in each other's grill, like, or, like there's space for more casual interactions to occur. Those are just small, simple things that like, we want to help people. I believe in marriage. That's why I care about it. It's like, I want people to get married. Like, I want that to happen.
we went on many, many dates before we were married that were just like normal dinners, face to face, whatever. But I never would have thought until you said that the dates that I remember the most, and definitely the conversations that I remember the most during dates, were always the ones that were like side by side, like going for a walk, many, many nights eating shave ice in Broad Ripple in Indianapolis. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of, that's really fascinating and really significant to me.
Yeah. And especially for men, our brains work a little better when we're actually doing stuff. And so that's why guys, the classic male bonding trip is fishing with your dad, right? Yeah, there's a reason why that stereotype exists. Those are moments when we're doing stuff. And so even just a simple walk together, I think plays to our advantage.
Yeah. It's no guarantee that my brain works well, but it's my best shot. Yeah.
I said better. Better was the word that I used. Right? I said better.
Incremental.
That doesn't mean stellar. It just means it's better than what it is in a regular state.
I'd rather give Kenna a B- than a C-. It's okay. Oh my God.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
This Whole Life is a production of the Martin Center for Integration. Visit us online at thiswholelifepodcast.com.
You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone.
and I promise I'm paying attention.
Totally.
So
Yep. Not just looking at YouTube on the side.
Yeah, not just looking. What a conversation. See what happened here in the world.
Catching up in your notifications.
Yeah, exactly. Checking emails in the middle
Sweet.
of the podcast.